In the secret book of John, there's a passage the church tried to erase from every copy they could find. It describes what happens when a chosen one dies. The archons create a false light, a tunnel that appears divine, beings that look like deceased loved ones or angels, a life review designed to generate guilt and regret. And at the end of this theater, an invitation: you need to come back. You have lessons to learn. You have karma to balance. And most souls believe it. They re-enter the reincarnation cycle. Their memory gets wiped. The trap closes again. But in that same text, hidden in a section the church couldn't fully destroy, Jesus reveals something the archons feared more than any other teaching. A phrase, not a prayer, not a plea, a declaration. And when a chosen one speaks this phrase at the moment of death, or even right now while alive, two things happen simultaneously that the archons cannot prevent. First, the soul trap loses its power. The false light, the guilt programming, the karmic lie, all of it dissolves instantly. Second, the Christ within activates. Not gradually. Not through years of practice. Immediately. Because this phrase isn't asking for activation. It's declaring what's already true. Tonight, you're learning what this phrase is, why it destroys the soul trap while activating the Christ consciousness, and how to use it starting right now so that when your time comes, you're already vibrating at a frequency the archons cannot touch. If you're saying the phrase tonight, comment, "I escape and activate" right now. To understand why a single phrase can simultaneously destroy the soul trap and activate the Christ within, you need to understand what both actually are at the level of frequency and consciousness. The soul trap operates through a fundamental lie, that you are separate from source and need external validation, external forgiveness, external permission to return home. The archons build their entire post-death theater around reinforcing this lie. The life review makes you believe you failed. The karma story makes you believe you're incomplete. The false light makes you believe salvation comes from outside. Every element is designed to keep you identified as a limited soul that needs to reincarnate to fix itself. And as long as you believe that lie, the trap works. You volunteer to come back. You consent to memory wipe. You re-enter the cycle thinking it's necessary. The Christ within is the opposite recognition. It's the direct knowing that you are not separate from Source. You are Source experiencing itself through temporary limitation. The Christ isn't something you become. It's what you've always been, temporarily forgotten. When the Christ within activates, you're not achieving a new state. You're remembering your actual state. And that remembering happens through recognition, not accumulation. You don't build toward it. You recognize it's already present. Here's why one phrase affects both. The soul trap and the dormant Christ are inversely related. The soul trap exists because you've forgotten the Christ. The Christ remains dormant because you believe the soul trap's lie. They're not two separate problems requiring two separate solutions. They're one problem, amnesia, with one solution, recognition. When you declare the truth of what you are, the lie dissolves automatically. Not because you fought it. Because lies can't exist in the presence of recognized truth. When you turn on a light, you don't have to fight the darkness. The darkness was only ever the absence of light. It disappears the moment light is present. The phrase Jesus taught does exactly this. It's not a request for help. It's a declaration of identity. And when you speak it with recognition, not hope, not belief, recognition, the frequency of your awareness shifts instantly. The archons operate at the frequency of separation, doubt, guilt, incompleteness. The Christ operates at the frequency of unity, certainty, innocence, wholeness. These frequencies cannot coexist. When you activate Christ frequency, archon frequency cannot maintain coherence in your field. The soul trap, which is an archon construct, stops functioning. Not because you broke free through effort. Because you recognized you were never actually trapped. You were always free, temporarily believing you weren't. Gospel of Thomas verse 70 captures this perfectly. If you bring forth what is within you, what you have will save you. If you do not have that within you, what you do not have will kill you. The Christ within is what saves you, not Jesus saving you from outside. The Christ you already are, recognized and brought forth. The soul trap is what kills you, not physically but spiritually. It keeps you cycling through incarnations, losing memory, starting over, never completing the return journey home. One phrase, two effects, same mechanism. Recognition dissolves illusion and reveals what was always real. Here's what makes this particular teaching so dangerous to the Archon system: that they don't just suppress it. They actively attack anyone who gets close to discovering it. Most spiritual teachings, even legitimate ones, still operate within the framework of seeking. You seek enlightenment. You seek Christ. You seek to return home. And as long as you're seeking, the Archons can manipulate the seeking. They can pose as guides. They can create false paths. They can extend the journey indefinitely, because seeking implies you don't have what you're looking for yet. The soul remains in a state of incompleteness, and incomplete souls are controllable. They need external validation, external permission, external salvation. The entire reincarnation trap is built on this framework. You're incomplete, come back and try again, maybe next lifetime you'll get it right. But this phrase doesn't operate in the seeking framework. It operates in the recognition framework. You're not trying to become the Christ. You're declaring you already are the Christ. You're not seeking to escape the soul trap. You're recognizing the trap only worked because you temporarily forgot what you are. And the moment recognition replaces seeking, the Archons lose their primary tool. They can't guide you because you're not asking for guidance. They can't judge you because you're not accepting their authority to judge. They can't trap you because traps only work on beings who believe they can be trapped. When Jesus taught this to his inner circle, he wasn't giving them a technique to practice for years until they finally achieved something. He was giving them a phrase that ends the game immediately. One declaration. Complete shift. And the Archons have spent 2,000 years making sure that phrase stayed buried, because every chosen one who discovers it is a soul they lose permanently. According to the fragments preserved in the secret book of John and cross-referenced with the Gospel of Philip, Jesus revealed this teaching in a very specific context. It wasn't during his public ministry. It wasn't in the sermons to crowds. It was after the resurrection, during the 40 days he spent with his inner circle before ascending. And he revealed it to them not as doctrine to be memorized but as direct transmission. He would place his hand over each disciple's heart and speak the phrase first, so they could feel the frequency of the words before speaking them themselves. The text describes that when he spoke it, light would emanate from his chest and transfer to theirs, not metaphorically but visibly. Other disciples in the room could see it happening. What makes this moment critical is the timing. Jesus didn't teach this before his death and resurrection. He taught it after. Because the teaching only makes complete sense once you understand that death is not an ending. The resurrection wasn't about his body coming back to life. It was a demonstration. He showed them that consciousness doesn't die, that the Christ is indestructible, and that what the Archons call death is just a transition point they've weaponized into a trap. Then, with that understanding established, he gave them the phrase, the tool that turns death from a trap into a doorway. The declaration that makes the false light powerless and activates the Christ recognition so completely that the return home becomes inevitable. And he told them explicitly, when your time comes, speak this, and you will not see death. Not that their bodies wouldn't die. That they, the consciousness they actually are, would not experience death as loss, as ending, as separation. They would experience it as recognition, as homecoming, as the Christ finally freed from the limitation of form. The phrase Jesus taught to his inner circle, preserved in fragments across multiple Gnostic texts and reconstructed by those who understood the pattern, is this: I am the Christ. I recognize myself as source. Not, I follow the Christ. Not, I seek the Christ. Not, Christ save me. I am the Christ. Present tense. Direct identification. You're not asking Christ to come to you. You're declaring that Christ is what you are. And the second part completes the recognition. I recognize myself as source. Not, I'm connected to source. Not, I came from source. I am source, experiencing itself, right now, in this form. The infinite expressing through the finite without losing its infinity. When you speak this phrase, you're not trying to become something you're not. You're stating what's already true but forgotten. And here's what makes it devastatingly effective against the soul trap. The archons can only manipulate beings who believe they're separate from source. That's their entire operational framework. They appear as authorities because you believe you need authority outside yourself. They appear as judges because you believe you need judgment from outside yourself. They appear as guides offering return home because you believe home is somewhere else. But when you declare, I am the Christ, I recognize myself as source, you're not participating in their framework anymore. You're not asking permission. You're not seeking guidance. You're stating fact. And beings operating in deception cannot argue with someone operating in recognition. They have no leverage. The Christ within activates because you just called it by its true name. Not, the Christ far away, or, the Christ I hope to reach. The Christ I am. And consciousness responds to recognition the way a tuning fork responds to its matching frequency. When you declare your identity, the dormant awareness of that identity floods active consciousness. It's not that something new arrives. It's that what was always present stops being ignored. Like a radio that was always receiving the signal but the volume was turned down. You didn't fix the radio. You turned up the volume. The signal was always there. Gospel of Philip says it directly, one single name is not uttered in the world, the name which the Father gave to the Son. It is above all things. It is the name of the Father. For the Son would not become Father unless he wore the name of the Father. The name is not a word. The name is the recognition. I am what the Father is. And when you speak that recognition, you're not claiming something false. You're acknowledging what the Father already gave you, His own nature. Here's what happens in the moment you say this phrase with full recognition. Your electromagnetic field shifts. Scientific instruments could measure this if they were present. Your heart coherence changes. Your brainwave patterns alter. But more importantly, your perceptual framework inverts. Instead of experiencing yourself as a small self looking at a big universe, you experience yourself as infinite awareness temporarily focused through a singular perspective. The perspective doesn't disappear. But you recognize it's not the totality of what you are. You're not trapped in the perspective. You're using it. And that recognition changes everything about how you navigate existence, including death. The archons will still create their theater when you die. They'll still project the false light, the life review, the karmic story. But you won't believe it. Not because you're strong enough to resist. Because you're clear enough to see through it. When they say you need to come back, you'll recognize the lie immediately. And instead of engaging their theater, instead of trying to pass their tests or answer their questions, you'll simply declare, I am the Christ. I recognize myself as source. And they'll have no response. Because that's not a plea they can deny or a request they can grant. It's a fact they cannot argue with. And the moment you declare it, the true light responds. Not their false light. The monad. Source itself. Recognizing its own awareness. And you return not as a soul petitioning for entry but as consciousness recognizing it never left. In a body, in a stable state of consciousness, prepares you so deeply that when death comes and the archons deploy their theater, you're not discovering your identity for the first time under pressure. You already know. You've already felt it. And that familiarity makes you unshakable. Here's how to use it starting tonight. Find 10 minutes where you won't be interrupted. Sit comfortably but alert. Close your eyes and take 3 deep breaths to drop into focused presence. Then speak the phrase out loud, not in your head, out loud. Your voice creates vibration that carries the frequency into physical space. Say it slowly, I am the Christ. I recognize myself as source. Let each word land. The first time you might feel resistance, thoughts that say, "That's blasphemy," or "Who am I to claim this?" Those are Archon implants. Don't fight them. Just speak the phrase again. Say it 3 times minimum. You'll know when it lands because something in your chest will release, a tightness you didn't know you were holding. After speaking it 3 times, sit in silence for 5 minutes. Don't analyze. Just observe how your awareness sits differently in your body. Do this daily for 7 days. Same time, same space. By day 7, the recognition is established. Mental noise decreases. Emotional reactivity drops. Fear of death starts dissolving. Not through philosophy, through direct knowing. After 7 days, you don't need to do it ritually anymore, but return to the phrase anytime fear arises. Speak it, and within seconds, the contraction releases because you just reminded yourself what you are. And what you are is untouchable. Jesus taught chosen ones a single phrase that does 2 things simultaneously: destroys the soul trap and activates the Christ within. Not 2 separate practices. 1 recognition. I am the Christ. I recognize myself as source. When you speak this phrase with awareness, the frequency of amnesia that allows the trap to function dissolves instantly. And the Christ consciousness that's been dormant waiting for recognition floods into active awareness. You don't escape the trap and then activate the Christ. The activation is the escape. They're the same event. The secret book of John preserved this teaching through 16 centuries of suppression because some truths are too powerful to fully erase. The church executed people for teaching it. The archons deploy massive interference when chosen ones discover it. Because once you recognize what you are, their entire system of control loses power over you. Not just in this life. Permanently. You're done. No more forgetting. No more cycling. No more memory wipes. You exit the reincarnation trap conscious, clear, and sovereign. And you do it not by fighting your way out but by recognizing you were never actually trapped. You were infinite consciousness believing temporarily that it was limited. And the belief was the trap. The recognition is the freedom. Tonight speak the phrase. Find 10 minutes. Close your eyes. Say it out loud 3 times. I am the Christ. I recognize myself as source. Feel it land. Sit with what shifts. And over the next 7 days, establish the recognition so deeply that when your time comes, whether that's next week or 50 years from now, you won't hesitate. You won't doubt. You'll simply state what you know. And the archons will have no power. The false light will flicker and fail. And the true light will reveal it was never absent. You'll return home not as a lost soul petitioning for mercy but as source recognizing itself. And that is the end. No more cycles. No more searching. Just infinite consciousness recognizing it never stopped being infinite. If you're speaking the phrase tonight, do 3 things right now. First, comment, I am the Christ below. Let other chosen ones witness your recognition. Second, subscribe to Divine Codes because advanced activations using this phrase are coming. How to deepen it, how to transmit it, how to use it in daily life. Third, like this video so other chosen ones discover this before the archons suppress it again. They tried to erase it once. They'll try again. Share it while it's available. Do all 3 now. Then tonight speak it. I am the Christ. I recognize myself as source. 3 times. Out loud. Feel what happens. Your escape from the soul trap doesn't happen at death. It happens the moment you recognize what you are. And you're about to recognize it right now.